Okay, screening tenants going into rental properties. Tenants are thinking, what do I do? Landlords are thinking, how do I do this? Agents are thinking, who are we going to choose? We're going to teach you some secrets this morning on the screening program for tenants. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so listen
Race and bank account. That's it.
up. Yes, we are a
It's
multicultural
not it. There's a
society.
lot more to it.
There is. Look, there's a whole lot to picking the right person. I like to think that property managers are sometimes matchmakers. We have to pick the right tenant for the right property. It's not just as simple as you've got money and you love the property, you've offered the right rent. There's a lot of factors involved when going through an application, even in that first instance of meeting people at open homes. So it is a big process in our business. It's part of it can be the reason that there are issues within a tenancy if you make this decision poorly in the beginning.
Yep. So, expert property manager Cleo with here of 15 years, 20 years of property management. Let's clear up some fun facts. I'm gonna shoot machine gun questions at you,
Okay,
and
I'm
if you could,
ready.
and if you could answer them in short,
Mhm.
and I'll just keep on asking more and more. Is there a program that tenants can be blacklisted on?
There is, but no one uses it anymore.
Why?
Well, it was a bit, not effective. I very rarely would find a blacklisted tenant on there, and I'd be like, well, this tenant was very difficult. They paid rent late. When we did the search, they weren't on the website. The website is only as good as the input that's going in. Most agents are very busy. They're not going to put a tenant through that database, and it's very stringent. You have to put, it's like another NCAT application.
Ugh.
You've got to provide documents to put them in there, and by the time you've done that, that tenant's found a property and moved into somewhere else anyway. So,
What's what's the number one method for choosing a tenant? What's your number one go-to for choosing a tenant?
calling the agency that they've rented with previously.
What's the number two go-to when you are reviewing a new tenant going into a rental property?
Where did they live before? Where was that property before? I sometimes even just Google that property to see if what they've said matches up with how much rent they said they paid, location, what's on their driver's license, does it match?
Do property managers go onto social media to look at prospective tenants?
Yes, we stalk you on Facebook and Instagram.
How much does the information you get from their employer, how much does that count towards the tenancy?
Only the verbal confirmation, not much. We want to see the pay slip. We want to see payroll. I would much rather speak to HR than a manager that could just be a friend that works there.
How much weight is put on what the landlord decides to what the property manager decides to what the property officer decides? Can you give me a percentage? Is it one third, one third, one third? Is it 90% the owner and 10% the property manager? Talk to me.
I'd say be 60 to 70% property manager and 30% landlord. They pay us to guide them, but ultimately the decision is made by the owner. Sometimes an owner will have a preference, whether it be no pets, even though you're not allowed to have no pets, but they might have an allergy or an issue, or they've had a bad experience in the past. So the crucial decision is the owner's, but the way the information is presented to the owner comes from the property manager. So yeah, I would say 70% property manager, 30% owner.
What about Junior Burger? Nothing in there for the the guy that met the person that met them at the open
Oh,
house.
yeah, look, they do give good feedback. That helps you look at the paper side of it. But I guess unless it's just an obvious red flag that's a no, then we don't even go through that process anyway with the application. So the juniors are good in collating all the information, and then we put our palms on it and see if it feels right, and then we will pick eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
What does a secret red flag look like that a property manager with experience digs out and goes, ah, I knew it. I knew it. What's a secret
No,
red flag when processing an application that you find in a tenant's
um,
stock drawer?
firstly, no ledger, so not renting through an agent ever, not being able to verify any rental payment history. That's a red flag for me.
Yep.
Another red flag is a property that's a certain amount of rent and it's one person. So they're going to be putting other people in there, the old property manager, the property manager. I had a property and I remember it was Tamarama, and the lady, she had like 6 people living there and she was basically like the owner. She was taking rent from everyone and yeah, always had to have a lease. I was always like, she always, right on the expiry, she'd ring and be like, I want to renew, being such a great tenant and paying my rent on time. And then she had to be home for the open home routine. So she probably, cleared all the the gear out. And I did catch on. I was a few years in, so I wasn't as experienced as I am now, but it did feel weird. Like I was like, this is just weird. How can she afford like 900 a week and she makes bikinis from home? I was like, this is strange. And then I found
What's the
out when, yeah.
what's the hands down? This is a cracker of a tenant. Is that like when a priest, makes an application, or what is the application you look at? You go, this isn't it. These guys are great.
I get a ledger, I get a payslip, and I get a bank statement, and all of those stars align.
Cash in the bank.
Cash in the bank, savings. So if they did, come through some hardship or COVID or whatever, that owner's protected with some kind of money that they've got behind them. And my number one is speaking to a property manager that I know and they say, yep, I would rent to them again. That's my number
Winner.
one question. Would you rent to them again? If they say yes, I'm like, that's gold for me, because I won't ever give a reference to another agent for a tenant that I've had issues with, because what goes around comes around. It's always going to come back to you. So always give an honest statement on how the tenants have been. They're not all bad. It might have been that, there was some issues with noise, or they didn't mesh well, or they asked for a lot of repairs, and that might be not a bad thing if you've got a brand new property. So, there's an open dialogue with another agent. You're not going to get that just on paper or a website. Picking up the phone and be able to talk about an applicant is crucial, especially with those high-end properties. 2.5K a week, $3,000 a week. I'm not just looking at an application on paper. I'm calling, I'm talking to people. I do a lot of investigating, because that debt to that owner can accumulate very, very quickly. And so we are a little bit like a bank. We definitely have to do our research to make sure that affordability is number one and that they're going to look after it. So yeah, but
So, all in all, the secret screening program for tenants is not
it's
done by the Russians. It's it's there's no secret software. It's very wholesome, old-fashioned, organic. There's more influence from the property manager than I actually thought, from what you've told me. And there's a couple of nuggets there. I think it's a massive topic because there's so much emotion that I know our daughter applied for a rental, and there's so much emotion and brain space and hope and well wishes that go into it. And then when you go and get that key, it's like touchdown. So it's a big thing for people, and they must ask themselves so many questions about it. So hopefully you've cleared this up today for prospective tenants out there and landlords out there.
And we're always open, tenants call us on and they often ask, why didn't I get the property? Is there something I can do in my application? And we're always there to be able to answer any of those questions for you if you haven't got the property. And there's plenty of properties, there's always rentals. So, if you didn't get that first one, there will be another one around the corner.
I love that. Get feedback from the agent
Yeah.
if you don't get it. All right, Claire, have a lovely day. Everyone,
And you too.
sorry about
Thank
the
you.
rain today, but Claire's going to talk to God for you. And what a ferocious night last night. Good luck today, Cleo, cleaning all
Thanks
those
a lot.
properties up.
Thank you. Bye.
See ya.